and welcome to One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer. We are just, well, technically, we are only 8 days out
Oh,
because that first game is a week from tomorrow, which I will get up early and watch because I
oh,
am that big of a nerd.
yeah.
I
Same
will,
here.
yeah. So I will watch is it the Padres and the Dodgers in Korea? I will watch them. And even though I'm not a big fan of the Padres, they're okay. I don't have anything against them. But the Dodgers are the new Yankees. I'll be
The evil empire.
sitting there with my cereal breast saying, "Come on, Padres!"
Kick their butts.
That's right. Uh, let's get the housekeeping done. Please like us on Facebook because our self-esteem is so tied up into people liking us. So like us on Facebook so we're not depressed all week long. Make us happy. That's what I'm saying. You can contact us through one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. Please support us through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com, search for One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer, and you can support us from anywhere from $3 to $5 to $10.
$100 if you like.
Yeah,
If you want to get crazy, we'll accept it.
if you just want to walk up to me on the street and just stuff a 100 in my pocket, I am fine with that. I've never turned down money. Okay, so our guess the Cubby contest is over. As we announced last week, Mark Marianello won, and JJ, I've been keeping this information from you because I did not want to cause tensions.
Oh,
But
okay.
I JJ's a nice guy, and
Thank you.
he doesn't hate anybody
Not really.
except Mets fans.
Oh,
Mark
he's
is
on.
from New York. He's a Mets
Oh.
fan, and he has tickets for the July 28th game of the Mets in Citi Field taking on the Atlanta Braves.
Well,
So
all right. Well, good for him. I'm all for anybody who has a passion for baseball, but
he,
I think the
he,
Met fans are just a little lost out there.
he knows you call him pond scum, him and his ilk. So what I think, JJ, a lot of people don't know this, has some experience in the wrestling ring. And I'm not talking about that fake amateur stuff. I'm talking about the real stuff where they do like chair shots and
Eye
fireball in
poking.
the face and, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think you and Mark should rumble this out.
Oh, or wiffle ball. If he wants to do the wiffle ball, come on.
I no Mark's a
Our
nice guy.
website, our podcast, we've never lost. I can clearly say we've never lost a wiffle ball game.
There
Never
you
lost.
go. I'm telling you. I'm friends with this guy on Facebook now. He is his baseball nerdum surpasses ours. He
Whoa.
all kinds of cool memorabilia, history of baseball. He's also into other sports, but it's really cool thing. So I do want you two to get together in a summit. So the best way to do that is for you guys just to friend each other on Facebook because
All right. We'll
Mark
get
is
the
a really
info.
cool guy.
Yeah.
I will well tomorrow. I've already got the ticket, so I need to send him the link. I've been so busy today, I haven't done it. But also his package of one Cardinal, one cup, one beer merch will be sent out this week, and he will be getting that. So congratulations, you did a great job. Some of those were very hard. The only two that were not gotten were Dave Rosello and the Frick guy. Can't even remember his name now. Other than that, the others, somebody at least got all of them. So that was pretty cool.
That was
So
a great idea, Vince. That was a good contest.
yeah, the problem is, I thought about doing another contest called Guess the Seattle Pilot, but not the baseball team, just pilots from Seattle.
Oh,
This was Tom
yeah.
Smith who flew American Airlines, and he's from Seattle.
Yeah.
So that would be a more challenging contest. But anyway, if you do want to be a contestant on one of our trivia contests, if you want to be a guest on a panel, if you have an interesting baseball story or connection to baseball that our listeners would love to hear, We'd love to have you as a guest. Just drop us an email, DM, or a comment, and get a hold of us anyway, and we would like to talk to you. JJ, how is your week going?
Fantastic. Did a lot of shows. Man, Vince, I pretty much work a full-time job and two part-time jobs and do stand-up. And on the weekends, I'm doing days and midnights, and it gets kind of crazy. And the only thing I really did this weekend is I found an old episode of Hee Haw on YouTube. That's like comfort food for me. I used to be my grandma and grandpa. Saturday night, 6 o'clock, Hee Haw. My grandmother would look at them women. They're just
Yeah,
wearing
look at
any
them women.
clothes. Hey, all right. Barbie Benton. Oh, yeah. I had to
Janella
tell you.
Hutton, Lisa
Oh,
Todd. Oh my gosh.
you know them all.
Oh
And
yeah.
you would see all the stars. And this particular one had Mel Tillis and Daryl Waltrip, the race car driver. And I love Archie Campbell. I think he's a hidden gem out there. And it was just good seeing that old stuff. But my grandmother loved the gospel singing quartet. They always had a four-piece, well, quartet, four. I'm from Arkansas, but a gospel singing quartet. And she loved that. But me and Grandpa, we didn't mind any of it. You know, we liked it all. And then I watched a documentary on Rush. I watched two documentaries on Rush. So I had the yin and yang going this weekend. And I want to say, rest in peace, Eric Carmen. I don't know if you heard, but yesterday, Eric Carmen passed away.
Oh, was he all by himself when he
He
passed
was,
away?
he was. Oh, what was that? He had that song in Dirty Dancing, some about eyes,
Hungry,
hungry eyes,
eyes.
go
Turn
all
the
the
radio
way,
up.
go all the way with the raspberries.
Yeah, go all the way with the raspberries.
Oh,
The,
man, it was
the
kick
first
butt.
song I heard as a kid that I thought, I think he's talking about what old adult people do. In my mind, I didn't know exactly what they did. I still don't know what they did after five kids, but I'm just telling you, when I was a
Uh,
kid, I realized that's a sexual song. So,
yeah. John Lennon was a huge fan of Eric Carmen, which I did not know. And he actually mixed one of his songs one time. So anyway, Eric Carmen, a lot of people younger than us might not even know who he is, but he was pretty cool. And he was 72 years old. I tell you what, all those musicians when we were kids, they're all gone. So I like tribute bands. I'll go see some tribute bands now and see some of these. They got them for everybody. They used to just be Elvis and Michael Jackson, but now they got Hart,
oh yeah,
Ozzy, you name it, they got them.
oh
So
yeah, the
yeah,
Flock of Seagulls tribute band, stuff like that.
they
Speaking
start in with Iran.
speaking of hee haw, shouldn't it have been called I Flew.
I flew. Oh, I flew. Yeah, it's never Iran. That's true. Flock of seagulls.
Anyway, speaking of hee haw, the second to the last season, I did get to watch a taping of hee haw,
Oh
and I don't
man,
know if I've told it on the show yet. It was
I don't
it
think
was
so.
really cool. Roger Miller, King of the Road, and Jimmy
Yeah,
Dean, the sausage
pork
maker.
sausage.
Yeah, they were the host. They taped two shows at a time, so they would do like a bit with Bob Evans, and then they would do the same bit with Roger Miller, and there would be some variation, so it wasn't the exact same thing. But if you watched T Haw 10 times, you saw the same jokes three times. I mean, they just recycle jokes all the time. That's kind of
Yeah.
one of the things they were known for. It was cornball humor. But I was so disappointed because you watch Hee Haw on TV and it's all high energy and
Yeah.
everything. It's not like that when they're taping. When they wasn't rolling, they were a bunch of old people walking around smoking. That's what they were. Grandpa John, Roy
Yeah.
Clark. Yeah. Okay, we need so and so and so and so and so and so in the cornfield. And the cornfield is like the size of my closet. It looks huge on TV, but it's
Oh, really?
not
I'll
much to
be
it.
darned.
And then they'd say, okay, on 3, 2, 1. And then they'd go, yay! Come on, you're not that happy. I know what you're doing. But
Oh,
because as people is well documented, I am a huge Buck Owens fan.
oh, he's
And
great.
that was after Buck Owens had left the show. So I didn't get to
Oh,
see Buck Owens. Um, but I did have a blast watching the tape. He used to be Opryland was such a cool amusement park, and then they shut it down like in the late 90s.
Yeah.
But you could go to Opryland, and they taped the Hee Haw right there
Oh, I didn't know
in the
that.
stadium, at the studio in Opryland. And then you could go to watch the Grand Ole Opry. That was within walking distance too, because it's not at the Ryman anymore downtown. It was right there on all the grounds, which I guess they do something else now that the amusement park's gone. But so it was cool. I got to see a taping of Hee Haw. I got to watch a taping of, well, not taping. It was a live radio show, the Grand Ole Opry, and that was
Okay.
really cool. I got to see like Porter Wagner before he died, little Jimmy Dickens, and
Oh yeah,
I
classic.
also, I also got to see Ricky Skaggs, and I love Ricky Skaggs. He's the one who introduced me to bluegrass, and so none of this has anything to do with baseball, does it?
Well, you know what? We're sort of like Hee Haw because before we go live, we're over here smoking cigarettes, and then we run over
Yes.
here and yay, just like Hee Haw.
Yeah, that's right. You want to know who was really funny? Even when he was so funny that they would have to do like 5 or 6 takes of anything he was in because he was just so off the cuff funny. He would have everybody rolling. Uh, I don't remember his last name, but his first name was Gaylard.
Tartin, Gaylard Tartin.
And he was in that movie Fried Green Tomatoes. He was Kathy Bates' husband.
Yes,
That was one of the funniest people I had ever seen. He kind
I
of got
agree.
buried in hee haw because they were doing improv and skits, stuff like that. But when the cameras weren't rolling and they were just talking, that guy was hilarious. And I remember thinking, I didn't even come to see him, and he's like my favorite person. Yes. So that was cool.
You see him pop up from time to time, or used to anyway. Yeah, I liked Gaylard Tartin. He was a good guy.
He was great. He was great. So one more hee haw story.
Please,
Do you remember Stringbean?
Stringbean. He wore the short pants and he played the banjo, could sing. He did his hat. He'd flip his hat when he played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the early mid '70s, Stringbean was murdered in his house,
Yes.
and I'm a little kid, and we're at my grandparents' house, and my parents or my mom and my grandma was saying that they thought Grandpa did it, meaning Grandpa Jones, because
Jones.
he
They
and
were
Stringbean
friends.
were tight, and apparently Stringbean had money, and Grandpa would have known where the money was. It wasn't him,
Right.
but they were saying that. And in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, my grandpa killed String Bean.
Oh no.
Oh
Oh
my gosh.
man. That's some good memories right there.
Well, let's get into baseball.
Of course.
There's some great news that Garett Cole may be gone for the season. Excuse me, that's bad news. Right? Sorry, he's
Oh,
a Yankee. But
he
yeah,
was good.
he's he got the MRI in his pitching elbow, and they're I've heard anywhere from a few weeks to the whole season. That's
Mm.
the last I've heard. If something has come across, I've been busy today and I haven't been able to brush up on it. That's the last that I had heard. If you heard anything since then,
No, not since then. I knew he was hurt. They were going to do some tests, but my gosh, that guy, I think he's the best pitcher in baseball at the moment. And that's a big blow to that team. I mean, there's so many teams, everybody's dealing with injuries already. It's going to be survival of the fittest this year. The last man standing has the shot at winning this thing.
yeah, the Yankees, they certainly see themselves as contenders this year.
Yeah, they do.
So if it's going to be something where he's going to be gone, even anything more than 2 months, I don't see how they don't sign Snell or Montgomery.
Right.
I mean, because they're in. Now, since the old man has died and Hal Steinbrenner runs it, and Brian
Right.
Cashman has been the GM since I think about 1921. They try to stay under that luxury tax. That's one thing that they try to do, and so they're a little more cost conscious than they were when George was
Oh,
running things. But um, it's going to be fascinating to see if they do dip into the free agent market and get one of those two remaining stud pitchers and fill out their pitching staff with that.
They should, because they only got Soto this year. He hasn't re-signed with them,
Yeah,
and he still may go free agent. And this is kind of like they put all their eggs in the basket, and they're
yeah,
going for it this year. So they should, like you said, Vince, they should go get one of those guys.
yeah. Um, Also, Lucas Giolito looks like he's going to need Tommy John surgery, which is bad news for Boston. Boston isn't looked at to be a contender this year. They're one of those teams that could finish last place and still be at 500.
Yes.
The division's so stacked. So it'll be interesting to see what they do if they decide to go after one of these pitchers, or if they try to maybe get some low hanging fruit to fill his spot. I don't know anything about Boston's farm system, if they have a pitcher that they're high on or ready for.
I don't know either.
It's weird because I heard two interviews with Yankee personnel about Garett Cole, one over the weekend and one yesterday. And there was no interviews about coming out of Boston about Giolito. It was kind of like that was just the news blip. And I thought, guy's probably going to need Tommy John surgery. He's out for a year. Anything going on with that? Who knows?
Cardinals were there was talks the Cardinals were looking at Giolito too, and sometimes bless his heart, I don't want to see anybody injured, but woo, we dodged one there. I
Yeah,
mean, my gosh, I wish him health and happiness and getting back as fast as he can. He's had a nice career.
yeah. It's been a quick career, a short career so far. So if you Tommy John surgery, just about everybody bounces back now.
That's
So,
true.
and if he's been dealing with an issue because he has lost his effectiveness to a degree the last few years, um, maybe this will revitalize his career and he can become that number one starter he used to be. So, the Giants, in the wake of the signing of third baseman Matt Chapman, have waived JD Davis. Um, and this is weird. I don't understand. I've never heard of this, but I'm not. I don't understand contracts. I'm not a lawyer, but apparently he signed a contract for a little over 6 million, maybe close to 7 million, a 1 year deal. But they've waived him, and because of the timing where they waived him, I guess early in spring training, they only have to pay him $1.1 million.
Hmm.
And basically, I'm thinking if I'm JD Davis and I don't know how much money he's made, he's probably made, 7, 8 million in his career, maybe a little more. But you're thinking, okay, this is something that's going to be my biggest pay season. And then you're fired basically, and you get that 1.1 million that's due to you. That's it. That's probably got to you know,
Oh,
and
hurt.
yeah, and people think these are millionaires. He's got enough money anyway. I don't know a millionaire that lives in my house. I know millionaires, they buy mansions, they buy cars, they buy what they can afford. And when you think you've got 6.9 million or 6.5 million or whatever it is coming, and all of a sudden it's 1.1 million, I don't has he already made investments with that money? I don't know. I just I don't always feel for these people, but in this case, I kind of I can relate to that. We've all lost jobs that
Oh,
we were counting on this money and suddenly, you know, job's over with, and it's like, what are you going to do? But it does bring up something very interesting. The Cubs, they uh, they have Morell playing a lot of third, and he doesn't look that good. He doesn't look. He's not a complete butcher. He's not what Wisdom was at third base last year. He makes great. He can make great throws. He's very athletic. He makes the diving wow plays. It's the uh, routine plays that he has trouble with. He's got kind of a scatter gun arm, so you're kind of like, where's the ball going all the time? But I'm thinking, okay, we still have like 14 million to play with underneath the first threshold of the luxury tax. I don't think it'd be a bad idea for us to bring JD Davis in. I mean, you could probably get him now for $1.5–2 million. I'm sure he's going to sign anywhere. I've heard on the radio that maybe someone's going to, can pick him up for the league minimum for a player. I,
That time.
I would, yeah. And I texted Max, I don't know a whole lot about JD Davis. I know he's got some pop in his bat. So I asked Max, how is he defensively? And Max said, he gave me the defensive metrics, which are okay. Nothing great, but hey, we had Jamer Candelario last year, who's just an okay third baseman. But I think that would be a pretty good insurance policy because even though Nick Madrigal is a heck of a fielder at third base, he just doesn't hit anything but singles, and he doesn't walk, and he is a slap hitter. Like I said, I like him as a number 2 hitter playing second base, but we got Warner at second base, and those number 2 hitters that you used to see, like Bill Russell, those slap hitters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't see those batting second anymore since Tony La Russa thought, I'm going to put a power hitter number 2, and did that with Oakland, and that's kind of how it's been since. But I'm hoping the Cubs may take a flyer on him, and I think that would be something solid we'd have in our back pocket if Morell cannot handle the defense at third base. Then we could maybe trade Madrigal for like a dozen stuffed animals of someone's mascot. I don't know. So anyway, more news. Gavin Lux has the yips. And so he is not going to be the Dodgers shortstop. In fact, it looks like he's going to start in AAA so he can iron out these defensive issues. Poor guy didn't play last year because of injury. He's coming back, and they're saying, okay, you got the shortstop job. And then it's like, I don't know if you've seen any videos of his throws. Yeah, he's got the yips. It's Chuck Knobloch, Steve Sachs kind of stuff going on.
Oh man. I always thought of him as a second baseman too, but because Mookie's going to second, I guess they had to move him to short. I thought he was the best position was second.
Yeah, he's having troubles making the throw from the first move was, okay, we'll put Mookie at short and move him to Gavin Lux as second. He's still aiming the ball to second. And I contend that it's easier to get the yips at second than it is at short or third because it's a shorter throw. At short or third, you can just kind of air it out.
Right.
When you got the yips, it's not a situation to where, like I said, Morell has kind of a scatter arm, a scatter gun, I guess they used to call it, when they couldn't throw really well, but he still zips it over there. Gavin Lux it's the ball's bouncing, it's 10 foot the other side. He's not trying to overthrow it. It's just very sad to see something like that happen. So what they're talking about now is moving Mookie to short, and I don't know who they're going to get to play second base. But what I'm thinking is, okay, you got Muncy at third who can't field, period. You got Mookie at short now, who hasn't played short much at all in his major league career. Don't know what's going on at second. The Dodgers infield suddenly looks very porous. It looks like, maybe a little crack in the evil empire. Empire, the Western evil empire.
Yes.
I'll call it that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I feel sorry for, very few players have a productive career when they develop the yips. It's just, the first player that I remember having it was Steve Garvey, who was a third baseman for the Dodgers, and they had to move him to first because he couldn't throw anymore. And then I remember, I'm talking about infielders right now. Then Steve Sachs suddenly got the yips.
Oh, I remember that.
Suddenly got the yips. And then we've seen pitchers like Steve Blass and Rick Ankiel get the yips.
Oh,
They
that's
just can't put the
right.
ball straight anymore. Um, Jordan Zimmerman. Jordan Zimmerman. Was he the pitcher?
Yes, he was the pitcher.
Who's the other Zimmerman for the National?
Ryan Zimmerman.
Ryan, yeah, he got the yips at third base, and they had to move to first. So it's a mental thing, but it's very difficult to overcome. Ankiel, the only reason he overcame it is because they moved into the outfield. You don't see outfielders with the yips because you can just air it out. And Ankiel had a heck of an arm, so yeah, that would make a great movie.
He sure would.
It would, and it's not just that; it's being raised, and your dad's a drug dealer,
Yes.
and from everything that I've seen and know about Rick Ankiel, he's just not. That's not me. That was my father, just a class guy. So, um, anyway,
Everybody loves a redemption story too.
yeah,
Somebody kind of rises up and above it all and is a success. Thought he was going to be. We thought, oh, we got this kid. He's going to be great for 10 years and he looked good at first, and then it's just a disaster. It was embarrassing. I felt for him when they send him out there like we believe in you, and oh, Vince, remember he was hitting the backstop and everything, and oh, it was rough. I thought, well, that's it, and then what a story. He made himself a pretty good outfielder.
he did. Yeah,
Yeah.
he had some pop in his bat. He could run down the ball in center, and he could throw, um, which is more than I could ever do. So,
Me too.
going into an issue within the division. Devin Williams is having some lower back issues, and it's been
Oh,
bothering him all spring. And apparently, the Brewers doctors are saying, "Yeah, your back looks fine to me." And he's like, "Well, don't feel fine," so he's going to get a second opinion.
uh,
So we'll see what's going to happen there. Um, the Mariners signed just a few of note. Mariners signed right-handed pitcher former Asher Ryan Stanek. The Blue Jays have signed Joey Votto, and
yay, Joey Stiller. I don't know how you feel about this, Vince, but I love Joey Votto. I hope he stayed a Red his whole career, but I think the game of baseball is better with having Joey Votto in the league. Hate to see him leave Cincinnati, but I'm glad he's around, and I hope he has a pretty good year. And we don't have to face him anymore because he's probably hurt your team at one time or another, and he hurt our team too.
yeah, yeah, he was one of those players I can't I don't want to see him come up.
Yes.
Big time player. Has seen a severe drop and erosion of his skills. But if the Blue Jays use him uh,
Sparingly.
intelligently, give him, I don't know, 6, 8 at bats a week against pitchers that he can handle, he can be productive. And the best thing about that is Joey Votto is a leader. So with all those young players in Toronto, and Joey Votto is a no nonsense person. So pretty cool. He's Canadian, um, but um, yeah, that's okay. Most Canadians I know are okay.
I do like Canadians. He does a lot of work with the Special Olympics too. A lot of people don't know that. Joey Votto don't run around tooting his own horn, and he's a funny guy and he's a good guy, and I know he does a lot of work with the Special Olympics. So I think that's fabulous. And one more time, I'd like to see him around. If I get a chance, Toronto comes to town, I'd like just to go see him play.
The Nationals have signed Eddie Rosario to a minor league contract. Just a few years ago, he was hitting home runs in the World Series for the Braves, and he's always been that kind of guy who's got some pop, and he can hit you some home runs. But there's aspects of this game that are lacking. So I liked him as a Twin,
I did too.
and then I was happy that he got hot in the postseason a few years ago for the Braves. So good to see looks like he's sticking around. The White Sox, who are looking at just about everybody for pitching. By the way, if you are out there, please, what they want you to do is go on the internet, sign the document. I would like to try out to pitch for the White Sox, and they will slot you a time, and you can go out there and
Oh,
pitch. JJ, what are you
Vince,
scheduled for?
I don't know. I've been working it out. or if they let me throw a wiffle ball, I think we're in. I think you'll see me out there.
Well, Friday, and I'm so ticked at this. I signed up for 6 in the morning, but it's West Coast time. Ah,
Oh
geez, man.
man,
I don't
what
know if I can get
the
my fastball up to 40 that
heck?
early in the morning. So anyway, that's kind of the transactions and injuries from players of note. JJ, what's going on with Cardinals?
Well, first off, I like your hat, Vince. What's the story with that Cub hat? Okay, there it is. Oh, I love that. Very nice.
I think I've
Very
worn it on
nice.
here before. Haven't I?
Okay.
Maybe
It's
not. I
been a
don't know.
while. From my angle, it looks like the Cub emblem, and then I didn't say it looks like a championship thing. I see it says Cubs now, but from back there, yeah, now it says Cubs. But from back there, I thought it was like a crown or something when they won the World Series or
Oh,
something.
that would be cool.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. Well, Cardinals. 16 days. Vince said it right. 8 days till the season starts. But for the rest of us who aren't going to Korea and playing baseball, it's 16 days. And I tell you what, one of the things that came out this week, I collect these things, I collect everything, but the pocket schedule, the 2024 pocket schedule, and this is important because this is the style of the media guide and the programs and stuff like that. And it's got, of course, Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Sonny Gray on the front of the pocket schedule. I've got these all the way back to 1967. So anyway, the new pocket schedule's out. I dig that. The Cardinals are 7-8 in spring training. I know records don't count, but I at least want to see them win a few games. 7-8's good. If you're 15-2 in spring training, you're doomed. I've seen us have some really good springs, and then we come out of the blocks with like our legs in quicksand. So I'll get along with that 7-8. Cardinals are dealing with some injuries. We got some injuries. Lars Newbar was diving for a ball and has two fractured ribs. And I hate to see that. Lars seems to have a lot of injuries. I love him. He's an upbeat guy, always has a smile on his face, but it seems like he has a lot of injuries. Tommy Edman still dealing with that thumb. I don't think he's been cleared to swing the bat yet. And so there's two guys that's hurt, and then Sonny Gray with the hamstring. So with that being said, this is an opportunity for a lot of other players to really step forward. And I'd like to shine a little spotlight on Alec Burleson, who's having a great spring. He's kind of stepping up, stepping forward. He's a left-handed bat. He's 25 years old. I mean, he's not like we talked a while ago. He's not a kid anymore. He's 25 years old. But he was drafted in 2020 in the second round. Highly touted, very good bat. I would say his defensive skills are a little lacking, and we have a lot of guys that can play DH and a lot of guys that can play first base. So he would be in the outfield, and I know he's been working on it, but he's not what I call a threat for a Gold Glove or anything like that. He's 6 foot, he's 6'2", 225 pounds, and last year he hit 244 with 8 home runs with only 315 at bats. Played about half the time. But I will say this: in 2022, he won the AAA batting title. Now I know that's minor leagues, but has shown that he is a very good hitter. And I think if he gets an opportunity, which this looks like he's going to get a shot right now, I predicted him to be like a fourth outfielder, but he's probably going to get some playing time now with the two other outfielders out. So I'm pulling for him. Alec Burleson, I want to see you do good. And this spring, he's lighting it up. I had a stats in here. He's, of course, it's only 24 at bats. He's hitting 375 in the spring, but that's on the 24 at bats. He's gotten hot out of the gate. But hey, I like that. I like that. He's playing pretty good so far. So anyway, Alec Burleson, I hope he has a good year this year. This kid we got who's I don't think he was touted to make the team this year out of spring training, but Thomas Sagis, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He's a kid, one of the guys we got in the Montgomery trade. I will give the Cardinals big credit. The moves we made at the trading deadline when we were out of it, we've really picked up some good pieces. And Sagis is one of these kids. He's like a Ben Zobrist, the Swiss Army knife kind of player. Saturday went 4 for 4 with 6 RBIs. Takes very good at bats, and he's described as Donovan with more power. And I tell you what, Donovan takes some really good at bats. This Sakis kid, I'm really excited about. I don't know if he's going to make the team this year, but he'll be down in Memphis if anything else. And I'm going to make a trip down to Memphis to watch this kid play. And of course, everybody's talking about Victor Scott II. Today he bunted, stole second, his third stolen base of the spring, and he's not playing every game either. And then Burleson got a hit and brought him in. So I mean, he's been playing kind of sparingly, but they moved him up to the leadoff spot, and he's looking very good. He's handling himself again, but it's spring training. You're facing these guys that are just on the bubble, or starters who are working on things. But that's a good sign that he's not overwhelmed. So Vince, my prediction is Victor Scott starts the year in the minors, and they bring him up sometime during the year as a spark, especially if they have some injuries. I think if they don't start the year up and they come up in May, I think that it's something about the year
The
they
service
get into
time,
the
yeah.
year.
I think
Yeah,
it's
and
only like 2 weeks. I mean, it's not that long at all.
it's
So
not that long. So I think the Cardinals, because they got to deal with Jordan Walker and Wynn as they get older, and then they can have him coming up. But Victor Scott looks like he's going to be a future Cardinal, and that kid, he can field. He's got speed to spare. It's fun. It's like watching old time baseball again.
see, I'm there's a couple things with young players that intrigue me. Power hitters intrigue me. But
Yeah,
usually I'll watch a few games and I'll watch, this young guy hit, and 80% of the time you can pick out the holes in their swing. And because
yeah,
the difference between AAA and the majors is in the majors, they find the holes in your swing quickly. LA De La Cruz for a month last year looked like he was Willie Mays. And then for the rest of the years, he looked like he was,
Willie Mays Aikens.
yeah, Willie Mays Aikens. Yeah. So, um, but speed always intrigues me because speed does not go into slumps. Speed is not contingent upon the weather. Speed is not always contingent upon the pitcher. If you can take a walk or if you can bunt for a hit, you can slap the ball on the ground, you can leg out something. Speed's just a weapon that's always there. And there's the old adage, you can't teach speed. So of all the Cardinals that you've mentioned, these Burleson and other players, the one I really want to see is Victor Scott II, because I think if he is that fast, he could be a difference maker very quickly. Remember, Vince Coleman was not a good hitter. He never was a good hitter, but he had speed, so he would change the dynamics of the game. Even like Billy Hamilton was a terrible hitter, terrible hitter. But if he got on base, he changed the whole complexion of the game. And I see Victor Scott being one of those people who could change the complexion of the game just by his presence on the base paths.
This
And
is a pivotal year. Oh, go ahead, Vince. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and think about it, when Brock was stealing 100 bases and Henderson was stealing 100 bases, Coleman was pitcher could throw over there 30 times. Now
Yes,
you've got two throwovers, and if you don't get someone, then they're going.
they're going. Yeah, and he's young, and he a lot of the great base stealers. I think Lou, I always credited him being just super smart, knowing the right opportunity to run, and he had Ted Sizemore behind him, who took a ton of pitches to give Lou that opportunity, and he always credited Ted Sizemore. But then you had Ricky Henderson, and Ricky just was daring. He dared you to try to pick him off, and he was just so disruptive on the base pads. And I think this Victor Scott has a little bit of that in him. Vince Coleman was like that too. Willie McGee was more like pick the spots and the tail runner and a double steal and things like that. And Ozzie a little more like that too. But Vince was very daring. Like, here I am, and I'm going. Try to stop me. So it's just so much fun, and I hope because of these rules that brings a little more of that back to baseball. That's gonna be fun. This is
Yep.
this is a pivotal year for the Cardinals because we had so many prospects, and the Cardinals have all, the word around the league and amongst some of the fans is, the Cardinals value their prospects too highly. They think too highly of their prospects. And the Cardinals had a lot of opportunities to make some deals, trade some of this away. But they believe in these players, and it's time for these young players to step it up. I remember when Joe Torre took over, and we had all the young players, and Ray Langford came through, but a lot of them it took them a while, and it just didn't work out. Well, unlike 1990, we have Goldschmidt and Arenado and Contreras as the anchors, and these young guys, if they can just pick it up and get their skills down a little bit better and mature as players, I think we might be looking at something special. Again, our pitching staff, though, that's the one thing. I think our bullpen will be fine, our defense, our hitting, but so hang on, folks. This is going to be a crazy year. We're going to see some 8-7 games and 9-8 games. It's going to be pretty wild. And Wrigley Field, wind's blowing out. Oh, it's going to be, look out that Philly Cub game, 23-22, something like that. Well, this time of year is exciting because the players are getting, working out the rust, getting back in the routine. The coaches, the managers, the announcers, and the umpires. And I don't know if you saw this the other day, but Angel Hernandez is at it again. And Lance Lynn is a cranky old man, and he complains. I mean, John Lester, who I loved, he was kind of a cranky guy too. And I don't know what happened, and probably Lynn deserved what he got, but Angel Hernandez has already thrown people out of games in spring training. And this guy, I don't know. He always said baseball racist. They don't let him ump the playoffs and World Series, but now they can grade the umpires. They've got a system where they grade him, and he's just not that great at an ump. And he sued baseball, and I don't think it's a racist thing at all because he still has his job. If he's not the very good umpire, to be honest with you, and
He's a terrible umpire.
And he causes distractions.
Yeah.
And he still has a job after suing his employer.
So I'm saying if one of us had a job and we performed as poorly as he has in his field, and then we turned around and sued our company, you think we'd still be doing that?
We'd be out the door. Yeah.
The umpires come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and the good ones, you don't notice them because they're good.
That's right. You're right.
If you don't know the umpire, they're doing a great job. If you haven't heard the umpire, Angel Hernandez, CB Buckner, every game they stick their butt in the game somehow.
They're the star of the game. Yeah, they think they're the star.
Yeah, you're not. You're an umpire. I would love to be an umpire. I can't be an umpire because I suck. I'd be one of those bad umpires. But if I had the skills to be an umpire, I would love to be an anonymous umpire. I'd love to, after the game, go out to eat. Nobody bother me because nobody knows who I am because I'm an introvert. But then I could be a part of Major League Baseball. It's like the ultimate job I would love to have. He should be just thanking his lucky stars he has this. And everybody has the opportunity to get better at their jobs. I don't know why he doesn't do it.
I don't know either. I don't know either.
And a great
Brody,
place.
Brody doesn't know much about baseball, and he's like, "Who's this Angel Hernandez? He's horrible." And he's not a nerd like us.
I'm telling you, the first place he can start is whenever a player gets upset with him, he needs to learn how to throw the water instead of the gasoline on it. There are some umpires that are so great at calming down players, calming down managers. And I've seen some umpires let a manager rant for 4 or 5 minutes and still not kick him out and get him calmed down. Because there are some the good umpires know it's not personal. They're mad, they're in the heated competition. It's very high stakes when you're in Major League Baseball. You get mad at something that doesn't go your way, you take it out on the umpire. Easy target. The good umpires know it's nothing personal. Bad umpires take it personal, and they have to throw off their mask and.
Well, Vince, I have just a couple more Cardinal things. Sonny Gray threw a bullpen session, 20 pitches, and no pain. Looked pretty good. I think he's not going to be ready for opening day, though. I think if he is, he's going to be at the tail end of the rotation and not. He was named originally the opening day starter. I just don't see him being ready for that. I know he wants to do that. He wants to be, one of the captains of the team and set an example. But don't rush. It's a long year, and I'm glad he's with us. And take your time and come back and be 100%. And I want to announce that we're going to have a contest. We're going to try a contest this year. I talked to Vince about this, and fantasy league is the big thing, but it takes so much time, and every fantasy league is different. I thought we could have a fantasy league. Basically, people send it in. Let us know you want to be a part of the fantasy league. But this is how we're going to do it, where it's no arguments, nothing like that. All the people, we hope to get 10 contestants, and one of us will have the contestants, one of us will have all the teams that did not make the playoffs last year, because everybody to be want to be the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Braves. And one of us will pick a name and one of us will pick a team, and that's your team. And whatever that team does, that's what you do. And you can talk smack, G-rated smack. And basically, the team at the end of the year with the best record wins, I'm going to say $100 worth of merchandise. And I will pick some stuff, some Cub stuff, some Cardinal stuff. And as the season goes on, I'll show the stuff. But we'll have it'll be a nice prize package for the winner. And basically, it's a team with the best record at the end of the regular season. And if two teams have the same record, it would come down to how they did head to head. And if they only play two games, they each won, it'd be total runs scored. So that'd be it. It'd be fun. I don't know. I think it might be a good idea. And we can follow the teams all year long. And maybe you get a second team you'd like to follow after this. You might pull in there and you get the Oakland A's or Colorado Rockies, or you get the Cubs or the Cardinals. So that might be fun. So anyway, that's our new contest. And we'll be doing that in upcoming weeks. So let me know as soon as possible. And if we can get 10 of the people out there who listen, I think we'll have a good time. Like those truckers. The husband could have one team and the wife could have the other team. That could be fun.
We can have
And that's it from Cardinal Land.
I call out Dan Rutledge. You need
Oh,
to you need to be in this.
yeah, Dan Rutledge.
You've been with us from the beginning.
Oh yeah. Phil Brooks.
Bill Brooks.
Gieselman.
Yeah. Jeff
That's
Big
right.
Ratings Phipps. Yeah.
Oh yeah. As soon as you get Jeff Phipps in there, this thing's going pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's great. So in Cub news, start with the good news. Ian Happ, who had some hamstring issues, he's back to taking some light batting practice. Looks like he's going to be ready for opening day with no issues. Jameson Taillon has had a very weird spring. They held him out from starting for the longest time because they were working on a mechanical issue. And then he's warming up, I think it was Saturday for his first spring start. And now he has a back issue, and they hope that he is ready at sometime around the beginning of the season. It might be a situation like they're talking about with Sonny Gray, where they move him to the back of the rotation for the first time through. He was projected to be our number 2 starter. So, but if the back issues are a little more serious, then what are we going to do? We have Caleb Killian, who was having a great spring, and then suddenly he has a shoulder strain that's going to keep him out till July. But this is the guy that we thought we traded for when we got Chris Bryant. He's had a couple cups of coffee and he's looked terrible. He's looked overwhelmed. But this spring, we finally saw the guy that, yeah, I understand why the Giants were so high on him and gave him up for Chris Bryant. He and Alexander Canario. We got 2 guys that are major league ready to look like to be contributors. But it looks like Killian is going to be out until July, so that means I'm sure he's not going to be playing in the big leagues this year. We also have other starters. We have Wisniewski, who's looked pretty good. He's had a few rough starts or a few rough outings in spring training, but overall he's looked okay. We also have Ben Brown, who I'm very high on. He's the one that reminds me so much of Adam Wainwright. So we'll just have to kind of wait to see if Taillon is ready for the season. Then we're looking at the rotation that we thought we were going to have. If it's not him, we'll either have to, go with Assad, find another person internally, or possibly pick someone up. I don't know. Um, we have, Nick Madrigal has been out with a leg issue, and he's optimistic that he was going to be ready by late March. So there's that. And then we've optioned some guys out. Going to AAA. We got PCA, Ben Brown, Luis Vasquez, and Brennan Davis have all been optioned to AAA. So they're going to one of the other fields right there on the complex, and they'll be working out with those teams. I've wondered in the past, you hear, well, these guys have been optioned to AAA, and then you'll look in the box score of a spring game, and there they are, like, why are they still there? Because that's kind of how it works in spring training. It really doesn't matter which camp you ran. If you got a split squads game, they might say, we need PCA, so and so, so and so, so and so to drive over to Scottsdale and play the Brewers or something like that. So, but this kind of is just taking down that 40-man roster. I think we're at about 50 right now. Going to AA or Porter Hodge and Kevin Alcantara. I heard it pronounced Alcantara and Alcantara.
Oh.
So I'm just going to say the Jaguar. Just an absolute looking stud. And then sent to minor league camp are Mike Shaw and Owen Casey. So I have watched, I'd say, bits and pieces of about 70% of the games, and I've watched a few full games, and I've seen a lot of what I'm looking for. And I want to kind of spotlight really quick four young players that have impressed me with this year's camp. On the pitching side, Luke Little, who is going to go north with the team, the guy who I thought last year Ross underused at the end of the year. We were having issues with pitching. He was the only guy coming out of the bullpen that consistently had swing and miss stuff. I think he only pitched like 6 innings, but he had like 11, 12 punch outs. He is a big, nasty left-hander with a great fastball and an awesome slider. He has looked very good. And I keep hearing all these people say, yeah, he's going to be, that guy who will come in and, the 5th inning, or the 6th inning. Yeah. Unless, and this happens a lot, unless there's an issue between the years, his stuff is closer stuff. It is nasty. And he has looked great this spring. Mike Bush, who we got from the Dodgers, who's also going to go north with the team, and he's going to get the bulk of the playing time at first base. He has went deep a couple times, and he's looked really good. So I'm very excited to see what he can do with the full season. And the good thing about him coming up with the Cubs is we can put him 6th or 7th in the lineup. We don't have to have the pressure, oh my gosh, we need a power hitting first baseman to hit right in the middle and drive in a lot of runs. Easy him in at the back of the lineup, let him get his feet wet, and then see how things take off from there.
Yeah.
But he's really impressed me. Matt Shaw, who was our number 1 draft pick last year, he looks like a big leaguer. He fields good. They've had him at third base a lot, and he can pick it. And you see players who have no idea what they're doing when they go to the plate. They don't have a game plan. They think they do. And as soon as they're, all right, my game plan is he's going to start with a fastball, and then he's going to throw a slider or a changeup. They kind of map out their at bat, and they get up there, and the pitcher throws the changeup first, and they're toast. I don't know what to do now. He didn't follow what I thought he was going to do. Matt Shaw has a game plan. If the pitcher does this, I'm going to try this. If he's pitching me this way, I'm going to try this. He's a very heady player. And my favorite thing to do in baseball is to think with the pitcher.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing. That's why I love baseball, because every pitch is a miniature chess game between pitcher and hitter.
Yes.
And you can see Matt Shaw playing that game. You see a lot of young guys that are just up there. I'm going to have Javi Baez has no idea what he's going to do when he comes to the plate. He still doesn't. His chase rate for spring training is 60%, and that came from the one of the shows on MLB XM. To have a 60% chase rate in spring training is atrocious. This guy should not be going to the major leagues, but you're paying him 160 some odd $1 million over 8 years. So you're stuck with it. Matt Shaw is thinking when he's up to the plate. You can already see that at his young age. Very smart player. The fourth player that has impressed me is
did he come out of college or high school?
College. Yeah.
Oh, he came out of college. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little bit older.
Yeah. The last player that has impressed me is Owen Casey, who's gonna probably start the year in AAA. He's got great power, but he is not just a power hitter. He's a hitter. Now, he's not going to be spraying the ball over the field. He's still a pull hitter. But man, he's going Oppo. He's put 2 or 3 dingers out in spring training, and one of them was opposite field. He just looks like he knows what he's doing. And you see players, and sometimes you can see just by the way they go up there and take their at bat, the look on their face, whether or not they are ready. And all these 4 guys that I've mentioned, they look like they're ready. PCA still looks a little lost at the plate. I don't mind him going down to AAA. Let him figure it out. AAA, come back, go to AAA and rate, come back in June and be a contributor to this team. Kevin Alcantara has got all the athleticism in the world, but you can just see he's not there mentally yet. He's still got to grow into his body because he's very young. So you see these players and you see why they're high on them, but then you see other players you're like, yeah, they already look like a big league hitter. They already look like they have an idea of what they're going to do. And these 4 guys, that's who I'm really excited to see, because I think they have put it together, not just with their physical tools, but mentally they're ready for the big leagues. That's all there is in Cub news.
You guys are going to be in good shape for years to come. You got a good young team, and and the lifeblood of the team is the young kids coming up. I tell you what, Cubs are in good shape for a lot of years to come. And then you got Craig Counsell. Of all the coaches you got, where you got Craig Counsell? Man.
Oh gosh. I was listening to a podcast, and I don't remember who it was. One of the national people was saying, I just don't understand why the Cubs got rid of David Ross. I thought he was a good manager. I just was screaming at the radio, hello, the first 2 weeks of the season, Mancini, Mastrobuoni in right field. He cost us games. All through until they cut Mancini, he kept putting Iron Glove Mancini at first base, and he was blowing games. That's how you become a team that all the optics say you should have won 89 games, but you only won 83 games because there were 6 games that you didn't win because you were outmanaged. David Ross is a nice guy. I like him. He's a good baseball mind. I don't think he's a great manager. He took one team to the playoffs. Did he win a game? No. That was the first year, 2019, he took that team to the playoffs. They kind of backed into the playoffs. Other than that, I know they traded a lot of players, and I know the players loved him, the Grandpa Rossi and everything like that. But no, this guy did not win games. There are a few games every year that the manager can make a difference. He didn't win those games. He lost those games to who? Craig Counsell. That's why we're so excited.
Good, that pause. I love that.
And that's why I thought it was so silly for the Cardinals to get rid of Schilt, because Schilt was that manager who could outmanage other teams, and he could manufacture an extra 3, 4, 5, 6 wins a season. He wasn't manufacturing an extra 3, 4, 5 losses a season. So anyway,
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. You know who else wins games, those close games, because they outmanage other people?
I don't want to manage against this guy, Jeremy Connor. No way.
He is a genius. Jeremy Connor. comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. Oh, JJ and I, it's spring training. It's like there's a couple weeks left, and we're kind of, when the games aren't competitive and we've seen what we're going to see, basically you're at a time where you're looking, well, I hope everybody stays healthy. I thought, I don't have all the ideas. I have very few of the ideas, but I had this idea and I thought this is pretty cool. I was proud of myself. So
hey, it was a good idea.
I thought it'd be cool if we talk about 10 baseball related memories from our lives. And it doesn't have to be about Major League Baseball. As I told JJ, it can be about a wiffle ball game. It can be anything, a movie we've seen, anything that has to do with baseball. The top 10 related memories that baseball has been a big part of our lives. JJ, you want to go first? You want to trade off? How do you want to do this?
Well, let's trade off. But Vince, I have 5. But as we're doing this, I will come up with another 5.
Didn't I tell you 10?
Well, I thought we said 5. Well, shoot. All right. Well, I got 5 really good ones. And I have honorable mentions, so I'll work these into conversation right here.
All right. I didn't put these in order of importance. I put these in order of when they came in my life. So these are kind of like
I see
stories of my life that have revolved around baseball. So I'll go ahead and do my first.
All right, sounds good.
I was not a baseball fan at this time. This was like the season before I really became a baseball fan, but it's one of the reasons why I started paying attention a little bit to baseball, because I remember when Henry Aaron surpassed Babe Ruth in the home run race. I didn't pay attention to baseball, but I knew there was something important coming. This is how ignorant I was. I thought Babe Ruth was still alive. My cousin told me, so yeah, that Hank Aaron's going to pass that Babe Ruth. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I can't Babe Ruth hit any more home runs? No, he's dead. Oh, okay. So, but anyway, 1974, beginning of the season, Henry Aaron passes Babe Ruth in the home run race. I wasn't watching it, but I remember the news broke into it. The commercial broke into it, and saw the home run and everything, and him running around the bases, and all these people coming onto the field to congratulate him. And I didn't know the social ramifications of it at that time because I wasn't old enough to understand racism yet. But I did remember that I did know that this was an important thing that happened. Baseball is very important, apparently. And my sister had her friend Lisa, and Lisa's cousin was a huge baseball fan. And Lisa was at her cousin's house. And Lisa called my sister excited that Henry Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record. And she was saying that her cousin, I don't remember the guy's name, was just jumping up and down and having a blast and everything. So that's my first baseball related memory of note, was Aaron passing the Babe.
One little caveat to that, what I remember was, later we found out Hank was getting death threats. I mean, I think most of the country was excited just for the game to have this kind of attention, and a classy guy like Hank Aaron, who played a long time, breaking this record. But there was elements of people just being whatever you want to call it and acting like that. But as he hits the home run, which you wouldn't see this today, these 2 kids, I don't know what got into him, run out on the field, and you don't know if they're going to attack him. At the time, I didn't know there was death threats. A sniper could have got these guys. They probably had security everywhere. and they were so happy. They're running alongside of him and patting him and cheering with him. And there was two white kids. I think that's perfect. That's just, I don't know. That's kind of a neat moment in baseball history right there, I think. You
Yeah,
know.
and the stereotype today is that the Caucasian players are stoic and subdued, and that the African American players are flashy and flamboyant and in your
Yeah.
face. Babe Ruth was flashy, flamboyant, and in your
Oh,
face. Babe
oh
Ruth
yeah.
loved being Babe Ruth.
Yeah, he loved the attention.
Aaron was stoic. He was serious. He was just a blue collar person who went to work every day, didn't complain, didn't do anything to draw attention to himself. And um, I don't remember the name of the book I read, but I read a book about 20 years ago that talked about um, the general malaise that was going on in all of baseball, not just fandom, but in management, everything. And it's like suddenly one day everybody looked and saw this guy that's been playing in Milwaukee is suddenly got 600 home runs, and he doesn't look like he's slowing down. And there were actually executives who were like nervous. What if an African American breaks this record? It was kind of that, hey, it's okay for, we've broken the color barrier and we've, had MVPs and everything, but this is a sacred record. Can we handle it if an African American has it? And that was so serious in the American conscious that he did get death threats because he's playing in the South in Atlanta. And you know, not less than a decade after
Civil rights and
yeah.
yeah,
So
all that stuff. Yeah. I'm telling you what, but what a class guy. And he home run to me, he's the home run king. He
to me
had,
too.
yeah. And so, well, my first recollection was I've always wanted to go to a ball game, and the first time I ever got to go to a ball game was 1976. I became a fan in 74, and I was like in fourth grade. I always wanted to go to a game, and on Mother's Day 1976, I got to go sit in the bleachers at Old Bush Stadium, and it was $3.50 in 1976 to sit in the bleachers. Can you believe it? $3.50. Ah, the good old days. So we go to the ball game, and out in this bleacher area, that's where the Stan Musial statue used to be, out in that area. And you go in the stadium, and as you come up to where the seats are, each step you can see a little bit more of the field. And I'm telling you, Vince, we had artificial turf back then, but everything was so green, and the Cardinal uniforms were so red, the white with the red hats. But we played in the Houston Astros, and they had those psychedelic rainbow jerseys that just, man, they just stood out. And I can tell you the starting lineups to this day. I can tell you the starting lineups, but it was Larry Durker for the Astros and John Curtis for the Cardinals, and Lou Brock. I'm sitting behind Lou Brock. There's Lou Brock, and it was a great game. The Astros won 2-1, and I'm such a nerd. This is like one of the greatest. I put it up there with getting married, getting baptized, and go to my first Cardinal game right there. That's it. That's as good as it gets. Well, Bob Watson hit the game-winning home run over in left field wall, and I don't know if you guys ever went to Old Bush Stadium. Left field used to go, right field sucks, and then right field would yell, left field sucks. I don't know. It was just kind of a cool thing to do. That's what we did. And then for a sixth grader, that was pretty darn cool. But Bob Watson hit the home run. So I wrote Bob Watson, and me and Bob Watson sort of became pen pals. I'd write him every once in a while, and he'd send me an autographed picture or something. And the last time, and Bob's no longer with us, Bob Watson also scored the millionth run in MLB history. And when he became the general manager of the Houston Astros, I just wrote him a letter and congratulated him. And he sent me a card with his general manager thing signed to me from Bob Watson, the guy who hit the game-winning home run, the first game I ever went to, and his business card for the Houston Astros. He also signed that.
Cool is that?
That
That
is so cool.
I'm telling you, of all the stuff that you've shown me, that's the coolest because it's got a great story behind it.
And that's one of my first real major, I'm not a part of baseball, but such a fan. I'm sort of, and I got to talk to Bob Watson, and every once in a while, I'd send him something and he'd write me back. And usually players don't write you back. They might sign something or you never see the letter again. Bob Watson. I'm a big Bob Watson fan. So anyway, that's my story. My first one anyway.
Wow. Well, my next one was my first professional baseball game. Went to go see the Cardinals play the Dodgers, and this was 77 or 78. I've got the information somewhere because I looked it up on the internet. I haven't printed out, but so I don't remember if it's 77 or 78, but the Cardinals are playing the Dodgers. And my friend Terry said, "You want to go to the game with me?" Yeah, in my mind, other people went to baseball games. Kids like me didn't go to baseball games, and suddenly here I am. I'm getting the shot to go to a baseball game. And we had good seats. We were about 5 rows back from the Cardinal bullpen. I've told the story on here. This is where I got to talk to Al Raboski, which was really cool. And I thought every baseball game was like this, And my friend Terry, his dad, there was like a group of 20. And me and Terry were like the only kids who went. The rest of them were adults who were drinking all night long, But Steve Yeager hit a grand slam in the game, and the Dodgers were winning. My friend Terry was a huge Dodger fan, so he was happy. And then in the ninth inning, the got to see Raboski pitch. In the ninth inning, we get a couple men on, and we send Roger Freed up to pinch hit, and he hits a pinch hit home run, and the Cardinals walk it off. And I just thought every baseball game was like that. It was like the coolest experience. For that to be my first baseball game was really, really, really awesome. So,
oh man, that's a great story. I love that. Roger Freed, I always got a kick out of him. He didn't have a long career with the Cardinals, but pretty historic right there.
and I saw Roger Freed also steal his first and maybe his only major league base.
Oh
It
my
was the
God.
last game of the season. I think it was 79 when the Cardinals were terrible. And they played the Expos. There was nobody in the stadium, and they had they had everybody off the bench in the lineup. And Roger Freed's in there, and he's on first base, and he takes off. He's still second, and he pulls the bag out, and they keep the bag for him. Really cool. I'm sorry, Roger's not with us anymore, but Roger, you gave me two really good memories. That was
The element of surprise. That was what that was. Well, this is not a Cardinal moment, but it's one of those like Hank Aaron, one of those pivotal moments. And it was I became a fan, like I said, in 1974. I was in fourth grade, but I didn't know all the teams. I didn't know how the schedule worked. I didn't know, did they play every day, all year long? How does this work? And in 75, I started learning the nuances like, oh, this team's in this city, and these teams are in the American League, and these teams are in the National League. And 75 was the first World Series I watched. And I still, to this day, believe that's the greatest World Series I ever seen. Cincinnati Reds, Boston Red Sox. Look at all the Hall of Famers that were in that series. And game 6, when Carlton Fisk hits that ball off the foul pole and he's jumping up and down and sort of summoning it to be fair, that moment has stuck with me forever. And it's just one of those moments where you remember where you were at. And it's like, I remember the moon landing. You remember, people remember when the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show, or something tragic that happened in our history. But that moment when my kids are with me and we meet somebody and we talk about that game, my kids will go, "Dad, he's one of you. He's one of you." He knows that was that moment, And if you ever seen Good Will Hunting, that's a big moment with a bond with the Fisk home run with Robin Williams and Matt Damon. So anyway, if you get a chance to watch that movie, but that's my second one, Game 6, 1976, Red Sox and Carlton Fisk.
no, that's a good one. I didn't have that one down. Uh, my next real big baseball memory, and this is going to sound a little goofy. Um, we had a 6 o'clock game, and me and my friend Terry again. After the game, we're still in our baseball uniforms, and we go to watch the Bad News Bears at the movie theater, his mom took us. And I remember at first, like the first 10 minutes, I was shocked because I was a kid. I knew how kids talked, but here they were talking in front of adults. My friend Terry's mom was there and she's laughing her head off. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's okay to laugh at this, I guess. But that movie was such a big impact on my life because I loved baseball. And it was, there was a realism about that. Um, these were actors, they weren't athletes. In fact, I heard that the only really good baseball player that was on that team, little league baseball player, was the kid who was the worst player on the team. Timmy Lupus was actually a really good baseball player. The rest of them were not that good at all. We're not athletes. But I remember going to watch that, and I laughed like crazy. I loved it. There was no pretentiousness to it. This is how kids talk when adults aren't around. And this is how kids will talk if their coach is an alcoholic and they have no respect for him. It was kind of cool. Now it kind of went over the top at the end when the kids are drinking beer. That's not going to happen. But other than that, there was a realism to it that I really liked. And when I played Little League Baseball, we were friends with players on the other team, but there was kind of a friendly rivalry. And the movie did a good job of showing how these two teams, the Bears and the Yankees, got to the point where they absolutely hated each other. And the movie climax like that. And it reminded me of Little League. One year I played, we had a really good team. And the team that was in second place, they they were a good team. They just could not overcome us. It kind of got a little heated when we would play, and it would get heated with the parents in the stand. Um, so I really like the Bad News Bears for its realism and for the entertainment it gave me as a kid. And I still watch it at least one time a year during baseball season. And it just takes me back to being a kid sitting in that movie theater in my baseball uniform, like, this is great stuff.
And for y'all that don't know, Vince has a Bad News Bears jersey he wears
Oh,
occasionally.
yeah.
Chico's Bell Bonds.
Those bail bonds, yes.
Great sponsor. Great sponsor. Well, this guy in the baseball history has just a little blip on the radar, but he made a big impact on me. And in 1976, Detroit Tigers, who weren't necessarily all that good, had this young pitcher named Mark Fidrich, and he's called Mark the Bird Fidrich. And as a kid, I seen baseball, and it was no nonsense. It's very strict. These are the rules. How dare you do that? I'm gonna throw inside and nail you. They get fights at second base. It was really intense and a long year. But along comes Mark the Bird Fidrich, and I know there was a Bob Uecker and guys that lighthearted, and they Rick Dempsey, people like that. But Mark the Bird Fidrich fascinated me because he was an oddball. He would pat the mound down, and he would talk to the ball, and he would have all kinds of crazy gyrations. And he kind of, I thought baseball was like in its own little capsule. That's over there. But Mark the Bird was on Sesame Street because he was called Mark the Bird, and they did a thing with him and Big Bird. He kind of just transcended the game. And he had that 1 year, not even a full year, where he was the all-star game pitcher. It just shows you nothing lasts forever. And he had the spotlight, and he was incredible for about 5 months of the season. And then he got hurt, and he was never quite the same. He tried to stay in baseball. So I always looked at him as like a guy, you can let your personality shine through as long as you're not disrespecting the other team. And he kind of transcended baseball for that year. And at that age, I was about sixth grade, and I just thought, you know what? You can do things your own way. You don't have to be a cookie cutter kind of thing and do it that way. If that's how you are, that's fine. But you can be a Mark the Bird Fidrich too and ascend to the top of baseball. So anyway, he meant a lot to me, and I don't know, just give me a different perspective on life and how you can go about things. There's not just a one way to do it. So anyway, I thought I'd shine a little light on Mark the Bird Fidrich.
Yeah, Fidrich was he transcended the Tigers. He was a bona fide star, not just a baseball star. And when he would pitch, and this all happened so quick, there wasn't a lot of hype of this guy coming up. Suddenly he's there and he's pitching shutouts and he's shutting out the Yankees on Monday Night Baseball and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But Detroit was not a good team then. They had Ron LaFleur, they had Willie Horton, an aging Willie Horton. They had some players, but they weren't that good. And I think that's right before Trammell and Whitaker got there. But they would sell out Tiger Stadium when he would pitch that year. And I remember there's been a few players in baseball history that would move the needle when it came to attendance, no matter where they were. Fidrich, Valenzuela in his rookie year, of course, the home run chase, but it's very rare that you find a player who can move the attendance needle like that. And people were just flocking to see this kid pitch. Not only was he a great pitcher, you could just tell he loved the game, and that was his personality. So, awesome job. Now, I have one. You're not going to be able to add anything to this because it's so personal.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I've played Little League Baseball for a few years, and I'm moving up to another level. And this team that I moved up to was really good. And I did not have the mindset that I can't compete with these guys, but I kind of knew these are kids from the right side of the tracks. They're all friends. The dad's the coach. And we have so many good players. I'm going to have to fight for playing time. And I did, man. I lobbied the coach, and I was good. And I knew I was one of the best players on the team. And my mom, even my friend who was from the right side of the track, his dad would say, "Why does he take Vince out after 5 innings? He's like your best player." Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, we're playing a little league game on this team against a team called the Twins, which means nothing, but so we were the Red Sox, they're the Twins. And I got there, and I usually played the first 5 innings, and they would put someone else because you had to play everybody, and I wasn't from the right side of the track, so take me out. I went there, and I wasn't in the starting lineup, and I was ticked, and I thought I'm going to play 2 innings and get 1 at bat, and the coach's son, no problem, even though he was not that good of a player, he's going to play all the time. All his friends are going to play all the time. And I was a lot more demonstrative in those days. And so I let the coach know, little Vincey looking at him saying, "Yeah, I don't think this is right." And I told him, I said, he plays all the time. He plays all the time. This player's knees are so bad, he can barely walk, but he plays all the time. But me and my friends that are on the team from the wrong side of the tracks, we have a hard time lobbying for playing time. Show up. I'm not in the lineup, and I am not happy. And we're playing the Twins, and they had a pitcher who was a left-hander who was a year older than me. And back in those days, a year could make a big difference in size and skill. And he threw hard. And I remember they said, "Okay, then you need to go hit." We were down by 1 run, and we had a player on first or second. And I remember thinking, I remember I said under my breath, "I'm going to hit this son of a bitch." And I didn't let anyone know I said that, but that's what I said when I walked up to the bat. I go up there. He threw really hard. He is one of the best pitchers in our league. The first pitch I fouled off, and I stepped out of the box, and I looked down, and I just thought to myself, I got him. I got him. The next pitch, I creamed a game-winning home run. And when I crossed the plate, I mean, I felt like I had won the World Series. Back in those days at Van Prater Park in East Alton, Illinois, there were 4 games. You had a game start at 6, 1 at 7:10, 1 at 8:20, and 1 at 9:30. And if you played the early game, you just hang around the rest of the day at the ballpark because that's what kids did. So we played the early game. I hit the home run off of him. We won the game, and I'm just there at the ballpark. And I had parents and I had kids who never talked to me suddenly coming up to me, oh man, great job, great job, great job. Did it matter in the long run? Did I see any more playing time? No. In fact, little rebel Vincey, even though we won first place, um, I did not show up to pick up my trophy as a protest. And one day, like in July, into July, it's about 7 in the morning, and someone knocks on the door, and I look out the peephole, and my sister wakes up. She said, "Who's at the door?" I said, "It's Brad, the coach's son." She said, "What's he want?" I said, "I don't know." So I just went to my closet and I pulled out my baseball uniform and I cracked the door open. I just handed him my uniform and shut the door and looked out the peephole, and he's walking back to his dad, who was the coach, who didn't have the guts to come to this kid's house because I'd had enough run-ins with him. I took him to the league. I took the dad to the league. That's how big of a jerk I was as a little kid. Anyway, I saw Brad walking back with my uniform in one hand and the first place trophy in the other hand. I thought, oh, he's just coming here to give me the trophy, but I did not care. Anyway, so that was a great moment hitting a walk-off home run. Anyway,
Oh man. You know, when you're a kid, I don't know. I think for me, it was like fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade. You think, hey, I might be a professional. You know, oh, we're wearing the uniforms, we're a team, we're not half bad. Maybe, every major league player probably played in some sort of team on their way up as kids. And since you told a little league story, I'll tell one. We were the team, we were the Mets, and we were a freak show. We had three fat kids, and I'm one of them. And we had a first baseman who was 7 foot tall, and he's like sixth grade. Roy McDonald. He was the center on the basketball team. And we had John Cato. I won't get through the names, but he would come. Our third baseman would come in, make a good play, and throw the ball over the head of the 7 foot tall guy. Like, what the heck? And he had long reach too. We're like, golly. But each year we got better and better. In our last year in what you call major leagues, we were really good. But we were sponsored by what were we sponsored by? It was like, I think it was a bank sponsored us. I didn't have any knees in my uniform. They were patched so many times. I was the catcher, and we were pretty darn good. We had two good pitchers, and we had juvenile delinquents on our team. Like I said, three heavyset guys, the tall guy. Our center fielder was great, but we were a really good team. We were like the Phillies when they had Pinky Cavilla and John Kruk. Real gritty team. We talked smack. We didn't care. And through the years when we were little, the bigger kids would run us over. I was home plate one time waiting for the throw to come in. I'm a good 2 steps in front of the plate. The guy just ran me over. I didn't even see him. And oh, he made me so mad. I put my mask on and said, let's play. Come on. So that was just how we played. But we had an arch rival, the Astros. Oh, yeah. And they had the new uniforms. They were sponsored by Channel 4. And their dad was the cameraman. The coach, her husband, was a cameraman for Channel 4 and got Channel 4 to sponsor him. And they had purple uniform, Channel 4, CBS with the I logo. And we're like, what the heck? And these kids were great, but they were younger than us. And it came down to the final game. But again, I'm living this where we're all together, and I'll never forget these days. And there was like just the night seemed more magical. You're in there, the dirt. I had a triple one time. I made some sort of hook slide. I don't know where it came from. I've never done that in my life. It was just so much fun. But one day I was watching the Astros, the dreaded Astros, and I had a Montreal Expo hat on. I'm sitting there just watching them play because we're going to play them for the championship. And their bench warmers were Tim Hodge, Dan Dees, David Dees, who later become my best friends. And we had a little conversation there. And little did I know through Little League, I was going to meet probably the three people that influenced my life the most. So, man, Little League, if you got a young kid and the way they play now, there's a lot of protection with the helmets and everything. I let them play because sometimes you make some of the best friendships you ever make in your life. And it makes you a lot. And for me, and I guess you, Vince, it made us lifelong baseball fans. Just Like for a moment, we're like kind of like a big leaguer out there. So
Yeah,
anyway, that's my little league story right there.
those dreaded Channel 4 Astros. Ugh.
Oh yes.
My next memory, I titled this when I found out my high school baseball coach was an idiot. So I'm a sophomore, and I I used to be very fast. I was a running back in high school. I used to have tremendous sprint speed.
Oh.
But I could always hit. I could hit. I could handle heat, no problem. And I wasn't a singles hitter. I would, I'd hit doubles, I'd hit triples, I could hit the ball a long way, I get my home runs. That's how I always played the game. And my sophomore year, my high school coach had this great idea. When you go up to bat, I want you to get on your back foot. I want you to get on your toe. What? Get on your toe. Why? Because that way you can just slap the ball and
Leg it out.
hit the ball on the ground and leg it out. And I thought, I've seen a lot of slap hitters in Major League Baseball. I don't know anybody who hits off their back toe. I didn't. And I thought this is stupid. So next game, I go up there to hit like I normally hit. And timeout, timeout. He comes up to me and said, I said, get on the back toe. So I got on the back toe, and I probably struck out or something. And I got pretty angry. I got angry enough that nope, not doing this anymore. I don't care if he benches me. So we play. I went to Wood River High School, and our big rivals, Roxana High School, and we are playing them. And they, besides me, everybody had the same batting stance on our team because that's the way Coach Caston said, everybody's, this is how you bat, this is how you bat, this is how you bat. Like that. And I remember thinking, oh, wait a minute. I think people should go up there and stand the way they're comfortable,
Comfortable. Yeah.
not on their back toe or anything like that. So anyway, so we're playing our rival Roxana, and they're going up there, and they all got their own individual batting style, batting stances, and they creamed us like 12-2 or something like that. I remember after the game, our coach said, I don't know how they can hit with those batting stances. I remember thinking, I don't know how we can hit with the batting stances you've given us. You make us do the same thing. I realized that season that, and I, you hear this with basketball, high school basketball. I used to watch a lot of high school basketball. There are hundreds of high school coaches in the St. Louis area. Maybe not hundreds, but probably pretty close to 100 high school varsity basketball coaches in the St. Louis area. Of those coaches, there are maybe 5 good ones. And I realized that with baseball. I've never heard any coach of any stature, college, professional, or whatever, who have said everybody has to stand the same way. I've never heard anyone say you lift the back foot, you be a slap hitter because you're fast. I've never heard any of that garbage anywhere else except for my coach in high school. And I realized my coach is an idiot. That's when I realized I am not like the rest of these players. They play baseball. I don't just play baseball, I think baseball. That's the way I've always been. Why are we doing this? What's happened with this? That's why I kind of like watching games growing up, because I liked hearing analysts describe the thought process behind everything. And that's why I get into the pitcher and the catcher chess game.
Yeah.
So I realized, and it was like a big revelation, just because they're older, just because they coach on a level that's better than Little League, they're in high school, doesn't necessarily mean that they know the game. And that's what I love about our podcast. We have people who know this game. And I tell people, this is a baseball nerd podcast. If you're not like really into it, you're probably going to think that's kind of a boring, stupid podcast. So, but it purposefully is like that. We kind of get to the weeds of the nerdy stuff about baseball. So, little tangent there, but my high school baseball coach was an idiot.
Well, my next one of my numbers here is 2013. I got the opportunity. I never thought I'd ever get to do this. Me and three of my really good friends, we went to spring training. First time I ever went to spring training. So everything was brand new. And we stayed in Orlando. And Cardinals are all the way down at the bottom, down in Jupiter. It's quite a ways away. But what's great is we mapped it out. Every day we had a different stadium we went to. Remember, we got there on a Saturday. We didn't do anything. Sunday we went to where the Atlanta Braves trained. It used to be at the Disney site. They've moved since, but we're going to go see Atlanta. We got tickets ahead of time. They're very affordable. We set great seats. You're right there, and they had the windows open where the announcers were, and there was Bryden Jordan, the outfielder. Oh my God, there's Brian Jordan. And the players are just real accessible. They're just walking around, and sometimes I didn't know this at the time, but where the clubhouse was, they'd all walk out there before the game, and people were cheering them, and they'd come over and sign a few autographs or take a picture or something like that. And if you ever get a chance, go. But it was great bonding experience. We all took turns driving. We just drove one straight shot down there and one straight shot back. And every day, I remember we went to where the Astros trained. We went down there to where the Mets were. We went to where the Tigers were. We didn't care who we saw. And the great thing about spring training, you go there and you don't know who you're going to see. And I remember when we went and seen the Tigers, Verlander pitched. So we got three innings of Verlander. But you might see a young player and everybody's looking him up. Who's this young kid? And it's very cool. Each stadium has a little thing you can buy, a pin for your hat or your collection about spring training in that year. And sometimes you see older players there. And I remember the Mets had a bullpen of guys that were like up and coming and guys trying to hang on one more year. And we had front row at the Mets game right behind him, and you could hear him talking, and some of them are talking about baseball, talking about the night before or where they're going after it or going to play golf or something like that. And if you get a chance, go, because it's just, I don't know. It's kind of a real pure form of baseball. No pressure yet. Everybody's getting ready for the season, and everybody's optimistic because everybody's got a shot. Who knows who's going to win this year? Nobody last year, except a handful, thought Texas Rangers were going to win. So if you get a chance, go to spring training. I've been 3 times now, and I go with a bunch of friends, and we have the best time ever. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that one.
My next baseball related memory was, I think it was about 81. Me and my friend Phil went to go see the Cardinals play the Astros. And my sisters would get straight A tickets. And those days, I just had no interest in any academics at all, unless it was history. So, I would skate by with B's and C's, and so um, my dad would, my dad and my sisters, they'd sit wherever the straight A section was. But I would, when I was growing up, if I could catch a ride to a baseball game, I'd sit in the bleachers. If you could take me and meet me. So I went to a lot of games where, me and my friend Phil, we just kind of get a ride from my dad or his friends or someone, that was going to the ballpark. We just go spend the $3-4 and sit in the bleachers. The bleachers were different then. I I I bet there were 10 times as a kid I was offered beer because they'd be sitting there, their beer would get warm. And, hey kid, you want a beer? No, thank you. Um, but yeah, I saw people smoke pot in the bleachers. I saw people making out in the bleachers. I saw people throw up over the wall of the bleachers. It was just a different time in the bleachers then. But so it's kind of rough characters in there. And the Cardinals are playing the Astros, and me and Phil are in line to, because bleachers at that time was first come, first serve. And this big guy, I mean, he was just muscular. He started singing that REO Speedwagon song, Tough Guy. And my friend Philip, who was about 110 pounds soaking wet, looked at him and said, Tough Guy. Oh, Phil, what are you doing? Phil wasn't the brightest guy. And this guy looks at Phil and he's like, yeah, I'm a tough guy. You want to try me? And Phil's like, no, I don't want to try it.
Phil.
And then the guy said, I bet you're a Cub fan.
Oh.
And Phil said, no. And I remember thinking, Phil, don't you dare say, but my friend's a Cub fan. Don't you dare. That's the only time I didn't want people to know I was. Phil refrained from it, but I thought, we were, I don't know, 13, 14 at the time. I thought, I'm going to get beat up here because Phil was too stupid to hold his tongue. Let the guy sing about what a tough guy he is, because I'm sure he's tougher than us, Phil, you know. And then you decide to mouth off at him. Then he says the one thing that could drag me into this. I bet you're a Cup fan. I'm like, don't say it, Phil. Don't say it, Phil. I was shaking, man. I was shaking. We go to our seats. I'm shaking. And Phil's like, oh, no, no, no. I'm like, but memory I can look back and laugh at now, but at the time I was scared.
Well, Vince, this story, I have a lot of witnesses. In my 40s, I couldn't play baseball anymore, but I could play wiffle ball. And there is professional leagues. And the one I was involved with was Fast Plastic. And Fast Plastic, King Griffey Jr. actually endorses wiffle ball bats. There's aluminum wiffle ball bats. One's called Moonshots. There's the Ken Griffey wiffle ball bat. I still have it to this day. Love it. It's my favorite wiffle ball bat. It looks like it's wooden too, but it's plastic. The thing about wiffle ball, when you play wiffle ball, everybody has their own rules, but Fast Plastic had a set rule. 45 feet was the pitching mound. That's a long way away to throw a wiffle ball. You know, anybody can throw from 30 feet, throw it over the plate. 45 feet, that's kind of hard. You had three fielders. If a ball was hit on the ground and it got through where the line was, that was a single. If you got in front of it to field it and fielded it cleanly, it was an out. But if you made an error on it, it's a base hit. So you would have a man on first. It was all ghost runners. If you went over that line in the air, it was a double. If you another line right before the fence was a triple, and if you hit over the wall, it was a home run. And I tell you what, we had some of the best times. I probably played about 7 years. And 1 year we were rated 6th in the United States. We won like 3 tournaments, the first 3 tournaments of the year. And our team name was the Sterile Prophets. We were the Sterile Prophets. You know, we all had nicknames and everything. And they even had like all-star games. And we had probably 4 to 6 people we rotated, won tournaments. But Vince, this is the biggest tournament I ever was in. There was a tournament in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Miss Indiana was there and sung the national anthem. There was like 36 teams. Oh. Yeah, they had a flyover. Dairy Queen sponsored it. It was cool. And teams were all over. And we got down to the final 4, and we were playing a team from Chicago, the Windy City Pirates. And they had a pitcher who had a patch on one eye. I guess that's why they were called the Windy City Pirates. So it's the Sterile Prophets versus the Windy City Pirates. What a clash of titans. I was pitching that game. We had a real fastball pitcher, and I'm a junk pitcher. I always said, like, I'm Maddox. I could throw a backdoor slider and everything with these pitches. I had one eephus pitch that would hang way up high in here and then come down and hit they had like a target you had to hit. And we were losing 2-0 going into the 6-inning games. And we hit back-to-back home runs and won the game. And it was hilarious. And then Windy City Pirates, they're walking off the field, and we go into the championship. And we must have played 7 games that day. We were worn out. We ran into a team. In this tournament, you ran the bases. And we ran into these little skinny guys called the Love Shack Hustlers. And they beat us by just slapping the ball on the field and running and getting base hits. They were so fast, we couldn't catch them. But anyway, if you ever get a chance, play wiffle ball. And people have ones where it's slow pitch, which I think is stupid. And there's fast pitch, and you run the bases. Sometimes you don't run the bases. There's tournaments. There's a tournament down here every year for charity, and they have their own little field. Some fields look like Fenway Park, but if you put home plate the other way, it looks like Kansas City Royal Stadium. And some people have really done they got announcers. You have walk-up music. It's really fun. I'm at the age now I can't play as like I used to, but man, for a game or two I'm okay. But anyway, get a chance, play wiffle ball, and I'm sending a shout out to all my fellow sterile prophets out there.
Well, my next memory was that I'm going to talk about was the Cubs knocking the Cardinals out of the playoffs in 2015.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
Not going to belabor the point, we've talked about it, but it was very weird because I'm watching this game at my in-laws' house who are Cardinal fans.
Mm.
And the uh, wanting to celebrate when we got the last out, but knowing that that might look like I'm rubbing it in. So I kind of tempered my celebration a bit. But yeah, that was a great memory.
Oh man. Well, my next one is 2022 September. And it was the game I got to go to it. I was sitting in the upper part of the stadium, but it was the game where Yachty and Wayno, I talked about it on here, and they had the game where they got their 325th start as the battery and broke, I think it was Del Crandon and the Warren Spahns record, or maybe it was the Detroit Players. But anyway, they got the record, and it was kind of bittersweet because you knew the ending was coming. But we almost didn't get that moment because Wayno was hurt at the beginning of the year and Yachty, he had some nagging injuries, but there was a part of the season where he just took an absence and went down and watched his basketball team play. And I was like, oh no, I mean, we were in a race to get to the playoffs. And but to have that, it was kind of a special moment. And that game, it was just a big build up that whole day. The games led up to that start, and it was a packed house. So it's bittersweet, like what an accomplishment, but yet you knew their careers were kind of coming to an end. So it
Yeah.
was a great time, and I'll never forget that.
But my number 8 is going to be a quick one because there's not much more to say about it. Cubs winning the World Series in 2016. I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. And when I did at the age of 50, I felt so um, fortunate, uh, considering I, I had family members who were Cub fans into their 90s and never saw a World Series championship. And I got to see it. So it was awesome.
Well, my next one has something to do with the Cubs. I was in the Navy at Great Lakes, Illinois. It's north of Chicago. And when I got a chance, I would come down to Chicago and see either White Sox or the Cubs play. I always try to go somewhere in the Navy where I have a ball team that I could follow. It didn't always work out. Sometimes I was out at sea for 18 months one time and only was on land pretty much 2 months of that 18 months. But when I was on land, I tried to be around a team. And one time I came down, and little did I know, it was 1987, and it was the Cardinals and Cubs. And first of all, it's a privilege to go to Wrigley Field. So much history. And I don't think of like the Cubs as I just think as the Cubs is a part of the great history of Major League Baseball. I love my Cardinals, but I don't hate the Cubs. They've had some players that I've loved through the years. My favorite, Sean Dunston. But in 87, that was the year the Cardinals were pretty good. It's still Whitey Ball, and we had a fast team. And I got to be at Wrigley Field when the Cardinals clinched the division. So we celebrated at Wrigley Field, and I didn't celebrate too loudly. You want to be respectful to the Cub fans. But I remember after the game, I walked around the stadium, and the Cardinals had a bus that was like they had a place where a bus could park, and had like some cages in there where the team could walk in there without being harassed or anything, and they could get on the bus. I remember seeing Willie McGee and Ozzie Smith and all those guys getting on the bus, and it was just kind of neat to be. Nobody was up down there except for me. All right, Willie, Ozzie, that kind of thing. But anyway, got to see the Cardinals clinch in Wrigley Field and be at Wrigley Field. That's pretty darn cool.
Um, my ninth memory is when we buried my Uncle Harold. Um, as some of you know, it was a lifetime ago. I have not been in the ministry since 1995, but when you were the only family member who can officiate a funeral, you get asked to do funerals and weddings for the rest of your life. So my Uncle Harold was in his 90s and he was blind and he passed away at I think in January of 2017. and I went to the funeral in the metropolis of Astoria, Illinois, and they had my uncle laid out with a Cub hoodie on and a Cub hat on, and the mortician had put like a little smile on his face. I so wanted to take a picture of it, but I didn't know if that was appropriate or what. But it was so cool to see my uncle before he died. Couldn't see anymore, but he could listen to the game. Finally got to experience a World Series championship. And that's one of the things that, the needling between the two teams that's there, it used to sting a lot because Cardinal fans didn't realize this, that we've went generations of starving for a championship, and it always eluded us. And I'm not saying every Cardinal fan, but there's a certain segment of Cardinal fans that think we're the Cardinals, we should win it every year.
There is.
And, that's okay. But sometimes the needling would go overboard and it became personal and stuff like that, and but to see the satisfaction that was plastered on his face as he was, as the casket was closed for the last time was just so sweet.
Well, Vince, I have a story to this, my ninth moment. Actually, it's number 2 on my list. Uh, my grandfather loved baseball. I love baseball, but really in my family, that was it. And I didn't have much parental guidance. My family was all over the place. It's crazy. People who know me know I kind of just stayed on people's couches and went from friend to friend's house and just stayed. That's how I kind of lived. And it's amazing I'm even here to this day. But baseball is one of the things that kind of kept me, I don't know, focused or something like that. I just loved it. Well, I'm in high school in 1982, and I didn't have any. I had lunch money, and I saved my lunch money. It was $1 a day. I had $11.50, and the Cardinals were going to the World Series. And if you remember in '82, the Cardinals hadn't been to the World Series since 1968. And Vince, I just took off. I hitchhiked to Busch Stadium. It was a Wednesday. I had $11.50. Bleacher seats for the World Series were $5. I could get 2 because if I buy 2, somebody's going to take me to the ball. If I say, hey, I got a ticket to the World Series, somebody will take me to the ball game. The sad thing, nobody even knew I was gone. That's the sad thing. But anyway, I hitchhiked to Busch Stadium. I get up there. I'm 13th in line. Now it's Wednesday. Tickets don't go on sale till Saturday. And at those days, you could camp out around the stadium. There's a picture of the paper, and I'm 13th in line, and I'm there. So I didn't even think about taking food with me or nothing like that. Wednesday comes. I had a little radio I could listen to. And I remember the songs they played like every hour on the hour was Who Can It Be Now by Men at Work. That kind of sets the moment. Or Pressure by Billy Joel. Those were the 2 songs they played every hour. Well, then by Thursday, now the line went from like 150 people. Now there's like 5,000 people in line, on Thursday. I still haven't ate nothing, but that's okay. I got $11.50. Friday, there was like some college guys that were like in the first 6, they were like the first 6 people in line. They noticed that guy never eats anything. And they always had these young college girls bringing them food. And one time they said, hey, kid, you want some? They had like the KFC. And they said, we got some wings. And I don't know who thought wings were great, but back then nobody ate wings. That was the last thing in the bucket.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take some wings. And they said, we're going to make a run. You want something? I had $1.50. So I said, yeah, I'll take 2 Mountain Dews. Because anybody knows me, I live on Mountain Dew. That's kind of like my thing. So they got me 2 Mountain Dews. They came back. And that night, the people behind me said, we'll save your spot, because on the streets of St. Louis, they were playing stickball. They closed down the roads and people were playing stickball outside the stadium. It was great. But now this is where the story takes a turn. Friday night, the tickets are going to go sell Saturday. There was a guy from Channel 4 News named Herb Humphreys. And Herb Humphreys, Nightside with Herb Humphreys. He's a big guy. All right, so Herb's walking through there, and he started at the front of the line, and he's talking to these people, and they're saying, my favorite player is Ozzie Smith, or I love this, or we love Whitey. They were doing all that. And when he got to me, I didn't know what I was going to say. He said, because I had Cardinal stuff. I lived in Cardinal stuff. And he said, hey, what's going on? I said, I ain't here to see the Cardinals. I'm here to see Herb Humphreys. And I grabbed his leg and I started kissing his shoes. So that night, some guys had TVs and they were like, we've got all kinds of people up here at the ballpark. We got old fans. And you saw this little old lady go, I love the Cardinals. And then we've got young fans, and these little girls were like, I love the Cardinals. And then we got this guy, and it's me kissing his shoes. So now my principal thinks I'm home at sick, and he sees me on Channel 4 News. Like, oh no, I'm busted. Oh no. So I go home and I mentioned Bobby Prince. Well, Bobby Prince was the kid whose dad was the cameraman at Channel 4. And I said, hey, Bobby, I got World Series. Oh, first of all, I got called to the office the next Monday. And they said, Mr. Martin wants to see you. And he goes, hey, where you been? And I said, oh, man, I was sick. Yeah, my foot. You were at the ballpark. How about you giving me that other ticket? And I said, I don't know, Mr. Martin. But anyway, Bobby Prince's dad worked there. And he said, hey, we can go up with Dad to work. And if you know St. Louis, Channel 4 is not far from the ballpark. So we went to Channel 4 and we're sitting on stools and we're watching the 5 o'clock news live. The game's going to be at 7:15. We're sitting there and you can see TVG and Oliver Mann and Steve Schiff and Julius Hunter. You remember those names? Robin Smith. Yeah. All those people. Man, there they are. And he showed me DB's Delight set. I walked around there. We went over to the ball game. And Vince, I was out there since Wednesday with just enough money to buy me 2 Mountain Dews and those 2 tickets. The Cardinals in Game 1 of the '82 World Series, we lose 10-0. We get massacred. Paul Molitor has 5 hits. But let me tell you something. That is some of the greatest memories I have listening to Who Can It Be Now, Pressure, talking baseball with those people in line. And, it was a great time. So I went to the '82 World Series, Game 1. I was not going to be denied. And my mom, the only thing she said later on was like, I always knew you were hard-headed. You're just, if you're going to do something, you put your head down and you do it. So that's my number 2 story, Vince. And I'm sorry I went a little long, but that's a good story. Oh, and we're over at Channel 4, Herb Humphreys. My friend Bobby goes, hey, I got somebody I want you to meet. And in the commissary was Herb Humphreys. And he goes, JJ Jackson. He remembered me. And I said, Kiwi shoe polish, Herb Humphreys. And he goes, that's right. And then he gave me a hug. So that's my little brush with Herb Humphreys right there.
Oh, cool. My number 1 is something that I was able to take our viewers and listeners on last year when Maxwell and I went to did our baseball trip. Going to the Pirate game the first night there. Then taking off for Cooperstown, spending a couple days in Cooperstown, going to the Hall of Fame. Just a fantastic memory. And then going to Cleveland and seeing my first, I've been to probably a couple hundred baseball games in my life. The first time I ever saw a 3-home run game. And I had that third. I just had the phone going. And when he hit that 3rd home run, you can hear the whole stadium, in particular me and Max, just, oh my gosh, he did it. It was so cool. So that's my latest baseball memory. It's a great baseball memory. I'll have it till the day I die. First time we ever did a baseball trip, and we're gonna try to make it an annual thing. Of course, we're not going to Cooperstown every year. This year, we're looking at going to Cubs game, White Sox game, Brewers game, possibly going over to Minneapolis and seeing a game at Target. But when you do trips with your family, they're always special, sometimes in a disastrous way. And this was just a fun trip. It was me, my son, both baseball nuts from different generations who look at the game differently, because I look at it from old school, the back of the baseball card. He looks at it from the young analytical age. But when you break it all down and you get, we're still kids. We have our favorite players. We have our favorite teams. We just enjoy the game. So that was that's my last baseball memory that I'm going to mention, and it's probably going to be the one that when I have one more marble just rolling around upstairs before it goes outside of my ear and I can't remember anything, I will remember that trip.
Oh, ain't that what it's all about? Making memories
Oh yeah.
with families and friends. And baseball seems to be that, to me, that linchpin that holds a lot of us together. That's fantastic. Well, Vince, this next one, my favorites. This is my biggest memory of baseball. I have a lot with my grandfather sitting in the floor and just talking baseball or my friends. But this bookends my second story about the 82 World Series. I've only been to two World Series games, and this is the other one. Game 7, 2011. But this is how it happened. K fans had a contest for every home game. And, sometimes if a team sweeps, there's only 4 games and you get 2 home games. The Cardinals had game 1 and 2. Well, the contest was who knows the biggest celebrity. The first game was who knew the biggest celebrity. Somebody knew Adam Sandler and had him call in. Well, they won the tickets. Now, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This game 2 was who's the biggest Cardinal fan. And somebody rented a plane with a big thing behind it, said like Cardinals #1 fan, and had his name on it. And that's pretty cool. I can't do either of those two things. So then the Cardinals go down to Texas and we play, and we're going to come back for game 6. Well, it was a crazy game. I don't know what the contest was for game 6, but whatever it was, I didn't have it, whatever it was. But when the game ended and David Freese got that home run, they announced for game 7, they said it just briefly, we're going to have the craziest Cardinal fan. I said, I can win that. There's nobody. Oh, yeah, I'm it, baby. So I go to work and I'm a nurse. And I said, guys, when they announce where the contest is and what it takes, I'm gone. And they said, okay, all right. So I listened to K fans all day waiting to see that. And about 2 hours before the contest started, they announced it. So I said, I'm out of here. And people go, Dan Rutledge was there. And Dan goes, all right, JJ, good luck. I'm headed up there. I stopped and got my friend Troy Lou. He doesn't know what's going on. He's like, well, maybe we can buy from a scalper. I said, we're going to the World Series, Jack. And so they had it in front of a hotel. And I was watching it. And one guy was shaving his eyebrows and eating a bar of soap. And I was like, okay, we got some competition going on here. 2 guys had a fist fight. And DeMarco Farr's one of the judges. DeMarco Farr, Dr. Bob Ramsey, and I think Randy Carricker, I think are the 3 judges. So I said, all right. So I got this bobblehead and I put Texas Rangers on it. And when it was my turn, they're videotaping it. And this tape is out there somewhere, Vince. But I have an argument with this bobblehead. Like, oh, you think you're special? Oh, you think you're better than me? And I had the bobblehead just going, yeah. Vince, I threw that thing down. I got up on the table where the announcers were, and I did a giant Superfly snooker. Boom on that thing. I destroyed it. Then I did like Ric Flair when he took off his pants, he did the elbow drops on it. I did that. And then I got everybody clapping, and I did the da 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 da. I started pulling armpit hair out. I don't know what's going on. I'm on autopilot, baby. And I finished with an impression. I said, this is my impression. Bob Ramsey, I was going to kiss his butt. He loves John Wayne. And I said, this is my impression of John Wayne if he was a comedian. And I told 2 jokes as John Wayne. And I can't tell them here because this is a family show, but they were very filthy and they were very funny. And the crowd went nuts. So at the end, they put the top 3, which I was one of them. And they said, whoever's the loudest gets the most cheers is going to win. And I told Troy, look, go down the street because I'm going to embarrass myself. And if I look bad, I'll do the walk of shame and you don't have to be a part of this. But when it was up there, I said, hey, Troy, it's me and you. We got to make some noise. And nobody, I can yell louder than anybody. It's a gift. And this other, one of the guys was the 2 guys that fist fighted. They had all these college buddies there. And so there was like 20 of them. I'm going to be louder. So when they put their hand over my head, I let this blood curdling scream that, man, 3 people were looking around like, what's going on? We won those tickets. And they were for underneath where Big Mac Land is. But I'm going to tell you something. There was a lady who looked very, very nice, like a young Pamela Anderson. And I ain't saying she was a professional, but she was no amateur either. And she said, who are you taking to the game? You're taking me. But I said, ma'am, I'm taking my friend Troy Lou. And Troy goes, thanks, JJ. Most people would have kicked me to the curb. I said, no, buddy, this is an experience. And people were wanting to buy the tickets. I got offered $1,000 for those 2 tickets. And I said, no. And me and Troy sat underneath there, watched the game, and I got to see game 7 in our home stadium, and we won the World Series. And I don't know if I ever get a chance to do that again. And that is my greatest memory. And I became like a legend after that. People were like, "Oh my gosh!" Well, they posted it, and people think I'm crazy now because they were like, "You were a psychopath," but I'll do what it takes to win those tickets, and that's what I did. Cardinals.
Well, that reminds a quick story. We're gonna have to forego baseball cards because we're creeping on 2 hours here.
Woo! Yeah.
But that remind I have a friend, and he was a huge Denver Broncos fan, and I think it was 98 or 99. The Super Bowl was played in San Diego, and he had family in San Diego. So he bought Super Bowl tickets as soon as they went on sale. And he went there, and his Broncos were in the Super Bowl. And he had planned this trip like a year in advance. He was going to the Super Bowl no matter who was in it, but it was just serendipitous that the Broncos were in it. So he goes to San Diego. The Broncos win the Super Bowl. He's on the field walking around with the Broncos, all hugging players and everything. And then he flies to Denver for the party in Denver, and he has nowhere to stay or anything. He just stayed there awake, partying on the streets for a couple days, and then he finally came home. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, just
Oh,
something you never think. I wouldn't even try to get tickets to a World Series. I'd rather watch it from my couch. But yeah, that's a cool story. So
Vince, you could feel the vibration of the cheering, and when the Cardinals took the lead, and they kept showing Nolan Ryan in the box in his Ranger coat, just kind of sad, and and everybody's hugging, and people you never even knew, you're hugging them and high five, and it's just it's something special.
yeah. Well, we'll do baseball cards next week. We'll have a shorter
Back,
show.
yeah,
I
back to normal.
we should have did five memories. We just kept going and going. So anyway, hey, thanks for joining us. Next week when you see me, we'll see us. We will already have one baseball game under our belt in Korea, so we'll have something to talk about. And spring training will be winding down for our teams. We'll have a better idea how the roster is going to look, how these injuries are shaping out. So it's an exciting time, and I thank you for joining us.
And let us know if you want to be in that fantasy league. Drop us a line. We'll put your name in the fishbowl,
Yes,
and
definitely.
let's make it happen.
All righty.